Our next speaker is Curtis McCoy. He is a business development expert, a motivational speaker who helps leaders reach their full potential. He's also the host of Success, Motivation, and Inspiration on Amazon Fire TV. Here's Curtis.
Thanks, Mindy.
Thank you.
I appreciate you guys for having me here today. My name is Curtis McCoy. Friends and family call me Curtis. You can too. I don't need to sugarcoat stuff with you guys, right? What is the main difference between winners and losers? The biggest thing that I notice with people, interviewing on Amazon TV is losers use their past as a reason, as an excuse to become the same example that they had. Winners use their past as a reason to become something better. You're where you are today because of the choices that you've made. You'll be in the place you're in the future, say 5 years from now, because of the choices you made now. Or that you start making now. Raise your hand if you had an incredible childhood. A few of you, okay, awesome. How many of you had great parents who loved you unconditionally? A few. Were your parents uplifting, encouraging, and supporting? So there's some of us maybe didn't have the best example there. I grew up hearing my dad say children are to be seen and not heard. He grew up extremely abusive, became more abusive as I got older. When I was 13, my mom got the courage to leave, and she took us with her. My dad later got full custody, so my little brother and I were forced to go back and live with him. He used to tell me, "You're a waste of skin and a waste of oxygen." Now, the reason that he got custody with us, he was friends. He'd take the judge, the county judge, and the county sheriff was our next door neighbor. Sheriff was our next door neighbor, and the judge was a buddy of his. So he'd take a mountain lion hunting. When we'd go, say if we report that we were getting beat, and the sheriff would pull us into the office there, and Dad would show up later, and they'd interrogate us, get all these questions, let us tell our whole story of the abuse, and then get done. And Clyde would say, "Hey Jim, you need to talk to your boy," and then it was on. You couldn't trust authority. You couldn't trust, like you guys talked about, not being able to connect and feel like God was really there for you or whatever. I always knew that God loved, that Jesus died on the cross for everybody else, but I didn't feel like it was for me. Everybody else is good enough, but not me, kind of thing. He was extremely abusive, and at one point, after beating me for hours, he had backhanded me and knocked me on the bathroom floor. As I sat there on the floor crying, he left and returned with his gun. He set his loaded .357 revolver on the bathroom counter, and he told me to do the world a favor. As I sat there on the floor with the pistol in my hand, I had absolutely zero self-worth, but I thought, if I was really brave enough to do the world a favor, I'd put 2 in his chest and 1 in his head. I didn't have the guts to shoot him or myself, but for years I let my dad's view of me become my identity. I felt like a waste of skin and a waste of oxygen, just like he said I was. I heard people say the apple doesn't fall far from the tree, and I hated myself because I thought I was destined to grow up to be just like he was. I felt worthless, but I knew that I wanted to be a better man than the example that I had. We used to receive $1.75 each day for school lunch, and I'd take 25 cents of that and buy a cup of Jell-O. I figured I could save that other $1.50. So I was putting away some cash from each school lunch every day, and saved it up so I could buy so I could buy stamps to write my mom letters, and I was saving up so I could run away. I've never got enough money saved to run away, and I was too scared of what would have happened. On rare occasions, when my dad let us go to visitation with my mom, she took my little brother and me to business seminars and multi-level conferences, multi-level marketing conferences, like the old Amway, Quickstar type of seminars, where professional speakers came to uplift and inspire us to become the best that we could be. She took us to each to buy a suit from a local thrift shop. I bought cassette tapes of these speakers, and we listened to them until the tapes wore out. I don't know if you guys remember cassette tapes. I may have dated myself there, but... My mom always had books like the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, and that was one of the coolest things where a lot of kids would get paid an allowance for just existing. My mom would give us, if we'd read these personal development books, it may be $5 for a book like this or up to $100 for the Bible. That was the way we could earn money. You did household chores because you lived there and that was your responsibility. But getting to read those books was a good way that I figured out I could make some good money as a kid. When I returned to my dad's place, I started sneaking out of school during lunch break and spending that $1.50 that I saved every day on these personal development books. The first book that I bought, I actually still have the original book, was How to Win Friends and Influence People. I've read through that dozens of times, and that was kind of something that let me know that I didn't have to be that same example that I had. I started devouring these personal development books. When we face difficult circumstances, it's easy to feel like everything is beyond our control. It's easy to get lost in a spiral of negativity and despair. I want to remind you that you still have the power to choose how you respond to those circumstances. Even in the darkest moments, there are still positive choices you can make, right? For me, it was choosing to believe in myself and my worth, despite the constant negativity that I felt, or that I faced with my dad. It was choosing to save my lunch money so I could write letters to my mom and buy books to teach me how to be a better man. Each positive choice we make has a ripple effect that can shape our lives. It may not always be easy, and we may not always get it right, but we can always choose to take a step forward and keep moving towards a brighter future. I urge you today to focus on the positive choices you can make. No matter how small they may be, you have the power to transform your life and the lives of those around you. I'm hearing that from a lot of you guys too, with these stories where you've gone through terrible things and you've decided to figure out how to become better people. You're here at this event to learn how to overcome, heal from those traumas and fix that past rather than keep perpetuating that. I am so proud of you guys for being here and doing that. Remember, your circumstances do not define you, but your choices in response to them do. Raise your hand if you're proud of who you are today. Maybe you have a hard time even looking in the mirror. Some of you that I know just think about things we've done in the past or things we've had happen in the past, and it's hard to even look at yourself. Raise your hand if you look back at the things you've done and feel like you can never make up for them. You still feel the shame and embarrassment. Someone else wants you to wallow in your shame and embarrassment and shame and regret. And that's the devil. He wants you to believe that you're not worthy of love and forgiveness, that you're too far gone, and that your mistakes define you. He wants to keep you trapped in that cycle of shame and self-doubt because that's how he can control you. I'm here to tell you that you don't have to listen to his lies. Your mistakes do not define you, and you are not beyond redemption. Jesus gave his life on the cross to pay for your sins and for mine. His sacrifice means that you're forgiven no matter what you've done. Well, that doesn't mean that your past doesn't matter or that you can ignore the consequences of your action, but it means that you can relinquish the shame and guilt that's holding you back. You can start to see yourself as God sees you. You're a beloved child, worthy of love and forgiveness. If you still carry the shame and embarrassment from your past, I urge you to let it go. Don't let the devil keep you trapped in his lies. Choose to accept God's forgiveness. Live in the freedom that comes with it. You are worthy, loved, and can overcome anything with his help. Here's another thing too. I never saw as a kid, talking about not feeling like Jesus came to die on the cross for everybody. He wouldn't have died just for me. Realize that you were created in the image of God himself. And so by default, you're absolutely amazing. We've got earthly things that happen to us that the devil lets happen as a way to test us. That has nothing to do with your self-worth. As I read personal development books, dozens of personal development books a year, I started seeing myself differently. I started applying for scholarships, and I put myself through college, sleeping through many of the classes because I was working night shifts and going to school during the day. I want to stress the importance of stretching yourself outside of your comfort zone. I forced myself to start talking to people when I got to college. Again, I had zero self-confidence, zero ability to connect. I was absolutely terrified to have a conversation at the grocery store like paper or plastic and respond to that. So I made it a goal to where every day, if I'd go to the coffee shop, the grocery store, or wherever, I wanted to connect with one person, be able to see their eye color. And when I got really brave, I wanted to make one person smile each day. So that might be talking to somebody and say, man, I really like your shoes. Oh, thanks, buddy. And I'm walking off going, holy cow, that was terrifying. But just realizing that I had to get over that or be a weirdo that couldn't talk to anybody. I made it a habit of looking people in the eye so I knew their eye color. It was difficult, but that forced me to become more confident and outgoing. After finishing college in 2002, I decided to start my own business. I founded a sports supplement company and a Christian clothing company. Later, I got a partner and we launched a cosmetic medical laser clinic in Evergreen. Using the medical context and the resources that we had from the clinic, we also launched our own white label pharmaceutical company, manufacturing bioidentical injectable research peptides. That's nerd talk. If you want to get the definition of that, we'll chat afterwards, but we're able to develop and distribute high-quality pharmaceutical products to customers nationwide, which was incredibly rewarding. These experiences taught me the importance of taking risks, stretching yourself outside of your comfort zone, and pursuing your passions. You guys becoming speakers, a lot of this is not a matter of just figuring out how to do it right. It's just figuring it out as you go. You get up on stage, you go, I'm not really sure what happened here. Maybe your slides don't work or whatever, and just figuring out how to work by it. And successful people just keep pushing through. As my businesses grew, I started sponsoring events at the Denver Coliseum and hosting events at local nightclubs to promote the companies. My friend, he recently passed just a couple of years ago here, Andy Hammond, was an IFBB pro bodybuilder from Colorado Springs. He's actually the guy that they did the Incredibles movie after, him and his family. The Disney modeled the movie after him. They had the spandex suit, and that was kind of the ones they created the cartoons after. Andy came up and he posed at the MMA fight that I hosted. He tore off one of my company t-shirts, did a posing routine in the octagon there, and the announcer thanked me for being the title sponsor and encouraged the crowd to come visit my booth. So we've got thousands of people there. I'm the only guy at this MMA fight wearing a suit and tie. Stepping out of the ring, as I walked back towards my booth, I fell and had a seizure, banging my face on the concrete, even peeing myself. As I was having seizures often, but pretty soon I was having 7 to 10 seizures every week. One morning I woke up and half my body didn't work. I called my mom to let her know that half my body was paralyzed, but I realized that I couldn't complete a sentence when she answered the phone. She answered the phone, I said, chicken, pituitary, waffle, phone charger. No, and I was trying to say the correct words, and it was just random gibberish like a stroke victim. So paramedics arrived, and they took me to Swedish Medical Center. A couple of days later, I woke up in ICU as an oncologist was talking to my mom. He told her I had a malignant glioblastoma brain tumor, and I had less than 90 days to live. Chemo, radiation, and brain surgery wouldn't save me, but he said it could ease some of the pain from the migraines as I passed. I didn't do chemo, radiation, or brain surgery because the American oncologist said I had a 0% chance of survival. This was back in 2010. My mom and stepdad took me to Tijuana, Mexico for treatment that wasn't approved in the United States. And at the time, like I said, I owned a cosmetic medical laser clinic and a pharmaceutical company. So my parents wanted to take me to Tijuana, Mexico. All the American doctors, everybody said, that's a terrible thing. Tijuana's dirty, it's dangerous, there's cartels, whatever's going to go on down there. But I agreed to go just so that my mom could feel like we tried everything we could. It's just, okay, doctors guaranteed there's 0% chance of survival here in the U.S., so we went to Mexico. Actually, that's a big part of what cured me. But I lost everything. My companies failed. I was unable to live alone because of the frequent seizures. I couldn't ride my new motorcycle or even take a walk because I'd get lost. I still get lost a lot, but I had a terrible sense of direction and my short-term memory is gone. And that's why you guys will see I speak at Caesar's Palace and some pretty big events. I'm one of the only guys that use notes. I hated that for years, but that's one of those things where I'm going, use some notes. It helps to make sure I stay on track here. I moved in with my mom and stepdad, sleeping on the floor of the 100-year-old log cabin that they lived in Crawford, Colorado. Of the hundreds of friends that I could text with free tickets to an MMA fight, a concert, or an after party, none of them showed up when I sent a text needing help moving. Everyone thought I was dying. People tend to pull away in situations like that, especially when you're hanging out with guys it was kind of the party crowd, going to fights and boxing stuff and MMA matches, and not like we were all hanging out going to church camp together. So probably would have had a different result if I was hanging around better people at the time. As I slept on the floor at my parents' place, my mom worked to inspire and encourage me. Rather than letting me lay around and feel like sorry for myself, she nudged me with ideas of businesses that I could start. I watched some YouTube videos and I started repairing broken iPhone screens. I printed flyers and hung them at the local church, the grocery store, and every business around town. I still couldn't drive, so I had to ask my mom to drive me to meet customers to pick up their phone. Being a full-grown man, having my mom drive me around to go pick up broken iPhone screens I was repairing for cash was definitely a pretty humbling experience. As I worked on my new hustle, the alternative cancer treatment started helping me to start healing. Soon, I rented a house in the middle of Hotchkiss, Colorado, and I got permission from the owner to knock out the wall between the front bedroom and the living room. The front part of that old house became my first retail cell phone store. Over the next 10 years, we launched our own telecommunications company and opened more stores. When we closed Bestseller in 2020, we had over 250,000 customers monthly hitting our website. By the end of the 5th year, we're on track to do $986 million a year in revenue. So revenue sounds good. The profit margin on that was very small. So it sounds better to say the revenue. I'm not going to tell you what the profit was. The businesses looked incredibly successful on paper. We were making good money and growing like crazy, but I was working 80 to 100 hours weekly. My mom was managing one of my stores, and she was absolutely worn out. My mom called crying one night because the workload was too much to handle. She had been working for basically free for 10 years, and it was absolutely miserable, the crazy stuff we were doing, running we're competing with Sprint, Verizon, AT&T, T-Mobile out of 3 little retail businesses, and it was us doing the customer service and everything. Normally you've got call centers with hundreds of people in them, and it was me and my mom answering the phone. A little more work than I should have put her through for the salary that she was not getting. I decided that night to close our stores and shut down the company. Life was miserable working that hard, just chasing money. And the reason when I started that, I started the company thinking I've got maybe more than 3 months to live, but thought I was dying. And so my goal was to build up this company and leave my mom this nest egg where she could buy her ranch and buy the horse and the stuff that she was looking to do. And so I started the company trying to launch another company and get to where I could leave my mom a windfall. And instead it ended up being years and years of crazy work. And she called crying that night saying it was too much work. I'm like, okay, we're shutting this thing down tomorrow. We called, shut down all the retail stores, just canceled the entire everything started shutting down overnight. I'd started speaking professionally in 2018 when I was invited to speak at Caesar's Palace. I loved encouraging and inspiring people, and I knew that was my calling, but I didn't know there was a way for me to support myself while traveling around speaking. Many of you may feel overwhelmed. You need to figure everything out right now, but you don't have to know exactly what you want to do with your life. Sometimes life has a way of taking unexpected directions. After I lost everything, I had absolutely no idea what the future held. All I knew is that I wanted to impact the world some way positively. What I want you to take away from this is that personal development is always worth investing in. Working on yourself will always be beneficial, even if you don't know where it will lead you. When you get out of here, don't be discouraged if you don't know exactly what you want to do with your life. I'm still launching new companies and stuff. I'm 41 years old right now. I may start something 6 months from now that's just another random tangent, so I still don't know what I want to be when I grow up. So if you take that as an example, you don't need to either. Just keep working on yourself and exploring new opportunities. What's important is that you start building a foundation for a life that helps others. Maybe that means volunteering in your community, starting your own business, or becoming a mentor to someone who needs guidance. Maybe it means being an incredible employee who takes 2 men to replace when you leave. Like I said, just being the employee that when you decide to leave, where the boss is going, holy cow, we got to hire 2 or 3 people to replace them. Remember, your past mistakes do not define you. You have the power to create a better future for yourself and for those around you. Keep working on yourself and stay open to new opportunities, and trust that the path will reveal itself to you in time. I want to remind you, your past does not define you. You are not your crimes or your convictions. You can still make positive choices and create a better future for yourself. I know that life may sometimes feel helpless, and the weight of your past may feel too heavy to bear. I know somebody said you're not proud of where you're at right now. I want to assure you that there is still hope. There is still a chance to turn your life around and positively impact others who are struggling. It starts with taking responsibility for your actions and committing to change. It starts with seeking help and support, whether that be through therapy, education, or mentorship. It starts with surrounding yourself with positive influences and building a community of support. One thing that I did when I was young, and I didn't have the ability to get around good people. I'm around this abusive dad that was just a dirtbag, but getting around, when I'd go to the school library and I start looking at these books or trying to listen to the cassette tapes or whatever, you don't actually have to be around somebody. Say you've got a negative husband or wife, somebody just absolutely all the time is negative or whatever, but if you can start listening to this other positive influence, it doesn't have to be in person to make a difference. I want to encourage you to embrace the power of choice, pursue a path of growth and healing, and never give up on yourself. You have a unique purpose and value in this world. I believe in your ability to create a better life for yourself and for those around you. I challenge you to take the first step towards a better future. Every step counts. Remember that your past does not define you. Your future is still in your hands. You have the power to impact this world positively, and I believe in your ability to do so. Thank you for allowing me to be here today with you guys. Thank you.
I have a question for you.
Sure.